these days, like on one side
Yeah.
it is open and on the other side it is a long hanging. It has turned out to be like that.
Yeah, I was also thinking in terms of creating, like, let's say patterns or like staples. So like when you try to make textiles also, now if you use this as a stencil to spray things on and you keep folding these shapes over, you get some weird, interesting shapes, right? This is
Yeah,
very
that was
interesting,
the
Kashmir.
idea behind it.
This is very interesting, Kashmir. Anyone else? We're going to move on now. Let's see.
Yeah, I've shared the picture like how this turns out.
Oh,
But
let me see. I think it's not share. Okay, I can see it now. Yeah, exactly. This is so interesting. Imagine this on a cloth, and when it falls on you, how does it fall on you? What kind of hand movements will it allow for? It's very well done, Kashmir. Let me. Okay, so this activity is very much based on allowing things and materials around you to inspire you. And design as an activity, design as a field, is very much about responding to outside sources, outside stimuli, right? It is never going to be about staying inside your head. तो even जब ideation phase में हम लोग आते हैं, हमें बहुत important practice है कि हम लोग अपने बाहर देखना शुरू करें. I will take you now through some of the projects I have done, which kind of follow through with these activities that I've shown you. Which, and again, it is very much about responding to outside stimuli, where I looked at a material and I tried to decode what material or structure that is and what it allows me to do with it, right? So first thing that I looked into was labyrinth mazes. किसी को यहाँ पे पता है labyrinth और mazes के बारे में difference क्या है? Anyone knows what the difference between labyrinth and mazes are? ठीक है. So labyrinths and mazes, apparently मुझे भी पहले बार पता चला था जब मैंने स्टार्ट किया था. Labyrinth is when you have one route throughout the space, and I'm sure a lot of you have gone through a labyrinth and space and mazes, right? कितने लोग mazes में गए हैं? कोई लोग mazes में गए हैं? Mazes और labyrinths में? किसी भी मेले में गए हैं जहाँ पे mazes हो, तो वहां पे जब आप like you try to find a path through things and you like कहाँ पे जाना है, लेफ्ट जाना है, राइट जाना है, आपको उस जगह से निकलना होता है, that's a maze. एंड उसमें बहुत सारे फॉल्स पाथ हो सकता है कि आप जाते जाओ और फिर वो पाथ ही एंड हो जाता है और आपको बाहर की जाने की जगह ही नहीं मिलती. वर्सेस लैबिरिंथ क्या होता है? लैबिरिंथ इज व्हेन यू हैव वन सिंगल राउट टू द सेंटर ऑफ द स्पेस. एक ही सिंगल राउट है, बस वो पूरे शेप में उसको पूरे जगह लेके जाता है, तुम्हें घुमा फिरा के सेंटर में लेके जाता है. एंड दोनों के बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरीज एंड मेटाफर्स है ना कि what does it mean to take people across a space or take people through a space and to confuse people. So I wanted to look as a designer into what does this kind of archetype or this kind of structure allows you to do. So within a maze, I was talking about how we rely on our sense of path, right? कि हम लोग को किस डायरेक्शन में जाना है versus like instincts कि हम लोग को left turn करना चाहिए, right turn करना चाहिए. And in a maze, I was saying कि what happens if you create a false path for them to follow, or false map for them to follow. इस वाली एक्सप्लोरेशन में I was looking into कि अगर आप उनके मेज के सामने एक मैप डाल दो, do people follow that map or they realize कि that's a false map and there's no instructions. Imagine you enter a space and you are like सामने बड़ा सा मैप लिखा हुआ है कि ये मैप है and there's nothing instructing कि अच्छा ये इसी का मैप है. And you go through the space and you realize that that is not the actual map for the space. So what happens when you start to question the signs that are around you or the maps that are around you? Then I looked into just this idea of boundaries, right? And हम लोग question कर रहे थे कि what happens, हम लोग के इतने strong ideas है कि what is a wall, what is a border, what is a boundary, and what happens when the only way you can solve a space is to breaking that boundary. And this is again me exploring this idea and taking this one thing, it's like labyrinth or a maze. What is the stereotypes? What are the archetypes? What is the meaning of the space, and how can I question that with my own explorations? इसमें मैंने कोई ऐसे बैठ के स्केचिंग नहीं की, कुछ नहीं किया, मैंने बस बनाना शुरू कर दिया. एंड उस बनाने से मुझे थोड़ा सा आइडियाज आया कि व्हाट कैन आई क्वेश्चन अबाउट दिस स्पेस. So one thing very interesting thing about this is we don't realize that a space like this has these ideas of what a wall is. And इस वाले exploration में I was trying to break that idea कि the only way if a person enters the space is to break these walls. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll go ahead. Then this one exploration was about how there's a dimensionality to a labyrinth or a maze, right? Where I was saying that if this is pressed down completely, this is just a path you can break and you can go anywhere. But इसमें तुम जब height का dimension लाते हो and then you add doors and gateways through the space, then you realize कि हाँ actually this is something that is very much dependent on that 2D becoming 3D. You can only cross this maze, you can only participate in this maze if you allow the third dimension to be added. So in चीजों को मैं question करने लगी थी, and these are all you can see very different explorations, questioning very different things from one single stimuli. कि one एक चीज मैंने पकड़ी, जैसे तुम लोगों ने वो पेपर को पकड़ा, तुम लोगों ने शेप्स को पकड़ा, तुम लोगों ने ऑरिगेमी बनाने की कोशिश की, वो एक चीज को पकड़ के you start looking at what drives, what is coming, what story is coming out of that thing, what story is coming out of that inspiration that you have made for yourself. Okay, and this is one of my final explorations, which was very inspired from this idea of labyrinths and mazes and how temporal that is and how temporary that can be if you allow it to be. So this was a whole long video that I had, like of 4 hours of this ice maze melting and how the paths start to reveal themselves because the ice is melting. So this was a speculative projected maze which people can interact with and to kind of understand the temporality of these kind of mazes. And this was all inspired from this process that I'm trying to explain in this workshop, right? Where you can take one single thing and experiment and explore and extract as many things as you can out of that. कि क्या मेटाफर्स आ सकते हैं, कि क्या स्टोरी टेलिंग आ सकती है, क्या एक्सपीरियंस बिल्डिंग आ सकता है उस एक मेटाफर से. Then one of my final projects, which was again very much inspired from this, was Unbound, which was very much about, I took something like a barbed wire and I kind of decoded that. कि अच्छा, what is a barbed wire? What is the bigger picture of a barbed wire? उसमें, as we all know, barbed wire is very much used to keep people out or to keep people away from certain things, and it's used in creating boundaries that are also a very aggressive form of boundaries, where you assume that someone is going to try entering or kind of try to sit on that space, and that's why you add a barbed wire to that space. So उस idea को decode करने के लिए I was like, how can you push against that idea of barbed wire? And barbed wire as a word has a larger context than that, to boundaries, to borders. And from that idea of borders, I want to take how can we reverse what barbed wires mean in a culture? What can we do to kind of use that image of a barbed wire that keeps people out to allow for spaces to be created? So in this project, you can see कि मैंने barbed wire structure बनाया है, and this is speculative, where I place this in where जहाँ पे भी boundaries होती हैं, यहाँ पे borders होते हैं, जैसे भी countries के borders, cities के borders, very important border spaces, or even private versus public spaces के borders, and उस जगह में ऐसा installation जो हो जहाँ पे ये barbed wire से inspire हो, and when people can come and add barbed wires, not to restrict people का movement, but to add spaces where people can move. जैसे आप देख सकते हो कि यहाँ पे एक barbed wire add करने से, and to group this together, you create a pathway for people to go through and not to restrict people. So what happens when this idea of a barbed wire is completely flipped on its head? कि अच्छा, no, now this is not a thing to create division and to create borders, but the barb is added to create pathways. And this is again very much वही idea था कि मैंने barbed wires को लिया और मैंने इसको पूरा decode and deconstruct किया. And this is again how you can take these activities and these iterations and take them ahead, not only in your journey as a designer, but again, you have examinations coming on. How can you create and generate those ideas? You dissect that one single thing that you are inspired from and that you witness around you. It is such a good practice just to sit in your own space and look around you and see what all is there that can inspire you, right? So please do take these learnings forward. आपको अब कोई भी questions है, this is all for today. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Any questions on chat? about the work I showed you, about the practices I showed you. You can ask questions on chat. It's a very open space. Please go ahead. You can also unmute yourself. So I hope from this activity you have understood that TDV is as a space is also very understanding, and yes, TDV as a space, we allow and encourage people to kind of experiment with these kind of multi-dimensional, multi-disciplinary or interdisciplinary practices. So a lot of the practices that you tried here was not restricted to a discipline, was not restricted to doing passion or space. It was very much about combining these practices and combining the way you think about ideas. So I hope this helped. And please take this forward whenever you're feeling like a burnout, whenever you're feeling that you can't iterate or cannot, and this will happen to you surely in your practice, but also in your sitting in a paper and you have to draw something and you have to think about some idea and you have to iterate. Stop, don't worry about what the question is, just look around you. That is all you need to do to inspire yourself from to how to answer that, to how to even go ahead in your creative journey. Chalo. That's all from me. Hello, Praveen.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. This was amazing session. I think student have got a lot of understanding, and again, there's a path, right, which now they can follow to be a better, better at observation, maybe, so they can boost. That will help them to boost their creativity. So yeah, thank you so much, and we would like to hear from you because you've studied from TDV, although you have shared some experience, but what are more like what how because you would be preparing from somewhere during your um after 12th, or maybe during 12th you would be preparing. How is your experience at TDV, and what are the best thing that as per your point of view, that TDV offers in comparison of any other college, and maybe that would be as per your understanding, right?
I think it is very much the opportunities you get here to think outside the box. As it was introduced to you, the idea of concept of villaging, the concept of baskets and task box. All of our design projects here are given to us by industries, by given to us by clients who are real world clients. So none of the projects that you do here in design, especially in design, are the ones that you are doing yourself. You are being given a client, so you always have this industry exposure that is present. Upar se, you again, as it was mentioned, again our international connections are great. You will always be given an opportunity to work with and collaborate with a larger community, the industry and the international sector. So it's we are thinking on a larger scale than just our national, within our own community, within our own national community. So there's always that. And I think the ethos and also the pedagogy is very interesting and very it is we are pushing a boundary that I feel is very much relevant in the design industry. We are talking about current contexts of AI, of what's happening in the design world, and where is our profession taking us in the future. So that especially is very relevant, I think.
Great to hear from you. So yeah, let's end the session. Student, if you have any question regarding the college or anything which ma'am has shared with us, you please feel free to ask on the chat. Otherwise, there's a group that we have created that is for the session, for the students who are willing to join the session. You can post it over there. We'll communicate the same to ma'am and we'll get back to you with the response.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Hi, Akanksha. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Ishita ma'am. Yeah.
Hi. I think you were just briefing them about how they can reach for any of the questions. But if the time is permitting, Govind has asked about the TDV admission process. So may I just quickly tell about that?
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Definitely.
Okay. Thank you. As I was, mentioning during the presentation as well, the eligibility is 50% of aggregate marks in your 12th. And as far as the evaluation process is concerned, it's a two-tier evaluation process. The first tier is an online entrance exam, and The second tier happens to be an interview that is also conducted online in the same week of the exam. So, in case Govind and any of the peers who have not yet appeared or maybe have filled the form but not appeared for the exam or are yet to even fill the application, please do so immediately because today is Monday, 8th of Jan, and coming Sunday, 14th of Jan, is our exam. So I would suggest that please quickly fill the form. Akansha ma'am can help you with the bit.ly link and how to access the form. It's a very simple form with an application form fee of 2,000 rupees, and you will be then within this week only given the admit card. And rather before the admit card, you will be even given a mock test. So the moment you fill the application form, within 24 or 30 hours, you will be given the link to attempt a mock test so that you can familiarize with the pattern of the exam because the exam at TGV is quite different than the other design school examinations. And it's different in a very interesting manner. You will have a lot of fun in attempting the exam. So once that is done, once mock test is done, you can familiarize yourself. And as I mentioned, if Sunday is the exam, by a Thursday, Friday maximum, we will issue you the admit card for the same. So that is how the process is. Govind, have I been able to answer the question?
Yeah, ma'am, definitely. Ma'am, we would also like to know about the exam procedure. Like you mentioned, it is different from other design colleges, right? So the
The
paper pattern.
pattern, yes, the pattern. So actually, mock test is the best thing, Akansha, to kind of have a student familiarize with the pattern. But just to give you a brief of what I mean, it is very different. As I'm mentioning, the ethos of TDV and Vision are quite different in general when it comes to other private design institutes because unlike other private institutes, are not at all number hungry. We only have a very limited intake because we want to focus on the student journey. So as we are different in all aspects, so are we in the exam process because you are very well aware whether it's NID, NIFT or any private institute, they get into GAT, which is the general aptitude test MCQ sort of format. Then they have a CAT, the creative aptitude test, and other analytical and logical reasoning questions. But when it comes to TDV's paper, it is completely creative bent. So there is no MCQ, there is no general aptitude questions involved. It's a completely creative paper wherein we simply say that it's an online paper with an open book format. Why open book? Because there is nothing anybody can actually cheat from. Because when in design, when we are analyzing through the creative aspect someone's uh, art of sketching or how a kid visualizes space, whether it is in 2D, whether it's in 3D, or how a kid perceives creativity and a designer bent question. Practically, आप उसको Google पे search ही नहीं कर सकते because that is something which has to come from within, and that is something which a creative bend of mind and art and sketch you have to do for your own self. So it's a completely creative paper with no unnecessary hassle of how good or bad someone is in a maths or a logical or an analytical reasoning. And just to further this, once anybody applies who's not applied, as I mentioned, within 24 hours, he or she will receive the mock test. And after going through the PDF of the mock test, it'll be really clear for the kid. And frankly speaking, this is from my personal experience from a lot of candidates, even in this November cycle. One common thing among everybody was कि मैम TDV का पेपर देके मजा आया. It was really interesting. And people really, enjoyed attempting the paper. They thought that it was really a format which stirred their creative and design thinking. Akansha, have I? Hello?
Yes, audible. Thank you so much,
Yes.
ma'am. Thank you. Let's
Okay.
wind this session now. I think there's no more question. We'll definitely reach out to you if we find any of them.
Sure. Because I think you're asking what courses you applied and things. I think all those details are very much there with you. But if there's anything at all, you have a group, I believe, and even Praveen is there. So please, answer those things and bring them to us also if there's anything or any support required from our end.
Sure, sure. Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Kansha. Nice to hear from you after quite a gap. Thank you.
Same here, ma'am. Good to see you.
Okay. Yes,
Bye.
thank you.
Take care,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great
Yeah,
day
bye.
ahead.
Yeah. Okay, B, thanks. Bye-bye.